In Minnesota, there is a new autonomous zone around an area that is now dedicated to George Floyd Square. There is a militant-style group that's taken over a blocks-long George Floyd site. That's created a hostile situation. This is according to News Nation. People that want to go and support the George Floyd Memorial don't feel a sense of inclusion. There is more of a military-type atmosphere over there and a sense of fear, according to one Minneapolis resident. So they're losing control. And this is what the left does. The left uses these sort of paramilitary groups, Antifa, BLM, whoever's here at the George Floyd area, to upset the system, create a sense of urgency, and then come in and take more power and also leverage this kind of violence against Republicans. You saw this from the sitting vice president, Kamala Harris, who when BLM and her fellow travelers and Antifa and other radical groups were burning down the country, she said, this can't stop, this won't stop. This won't keep up the pressure on Republicans. Now, as the trial about George Floyd's death gets underway, as more evidence comes to light, as the facts about George Floyd's life and behavior even on that day that the media suppressed are coming to light, maybe the cop who was involved will not be prosecuted, or rather will not be convicted. If that is the case, you can expect a whole lot more autonomous zones and a lot more violence. Before we go, I do have to mention, speaking of race hustling, you remember a while ago we talked about that gal, Amanda Gorman, who did the slam poem at the inauguration. She did one at the Super Bowl too. And we went through the poem for a little bit, and I pointed out that it's a very bad poem, and as Harold Bloom, the literary critic, said, slam poetry is the death of art, and that it shows how much our culture is decayed, because this is simply about the appearance of poetry, right? You know, she's a young black woman, and she's performing this poem in a way. The poem itself isn't any good, but the optics are so good, and we're so shallow as a culture now. That's all we care about. Well, I hate to say I told you so on the show. I was proven right. This poem is now being translated into Spanish, and there was a translator, Victor Obiols, who was hired to do this. But the editor of the Barcelona publisher told a news agency on Wednesday that once the translation was complete, the company received a request from the U.S. publisher, Viking Books, that they had to ditch that translation. The translation had to be done by a female activist with African-American origins, if possible. What does the color of or the sex of the translator have to do with the art, with the translation of the poetry, the actual work of art? Nothing, of course. It is, talent falls on anybody. It falls on people in unexpected ways. But this isn't, they know the poem's no good. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter how the translation is, doesn't matter how the original poem is. They know the poem's no good. It's so not about that. It's about the appearance. It's a very shallow aspect for our culture, which is now being run by very shallow people who are telling us just 115 more days to slow the spread. If you enjoyed that break from disinformation, historical revision, and screaming about the end of the world, be sure to hit the subscribe button so that you never miss another video.